Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 20th of November of 2023. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first I would like to tell you that we have added another hero on map, and I'm talking about this person in front of your screen. This is Lloyd James Austin, United States Secretary of Defense. And this person arrived today in Kiev, and this person had a very important meeting with Zelensky, and probably they were discussing a lot of very important things. After the meeting, according to information we have, Austin promised the Ukrainians $100 million. A few days ago, the Minister of Defense of Ukraine reported that one day of war with Russia cost them $100 million. So according to that raw calculation, the Secretary of Defense of the United States of America brought the Ukrainians money for one day of war. Very interesting. Of course, this is just something like a joke, probably. The sources are saying that Austin arrived with a lot of questions to Zelensky, and some sources are saying that Austin something like a final warning from the United States of America, and that they tried to force the Zelensky to start president elections. Obviously, everybody understands that Zelensky is going to lose any president elections, and of course, United States of America currently wants to Zaluzhny to be the next president of Ukraine. But this is also another opinion. Other sources are saying that Austin arrived in Ukraine to discuss the upcoming support of F-16 to Ukraine. If you remember, a few days ago, we discussed the situation when a Russian pilot, an Ukrainian pilot, stole Su-27 and fled to the territory of Russian Federation. So obviously Austin and the United States of America want to be for 100% sure, and they want to get some guarantees from Ukraine that there are going to be no such cases with F-16s in the future. Other sources are saying that Austin arrived in Ukraine and demand the Ukrainians to adopt every single necessary law to start mobilization among boys, very young people. Furthermore, if you remember, yesterday we discussed the video, the interview with the soldier of Azov battalion of the 3rd Storm Brigade Azov. He was, you remember that skin-head man, very big man. He was talking about the situation on the ground. He was talking about the situation on the ground, and he also was saying, he was also requiring and demanding the Ukrainian authorities to start mobilization among young people. So as you can see, all these events are taking place at the same time, and we understand that from now on this is no longer rumors or speculations. This is the reality, this is the fact, and this is the new Ukraine that Ukrainians is going to start in 2024. Mobilization among women, among boys, maybe among kids, who knows, among old men, among sick men, a mobilization among everyone who can hold weapon and who can fight with Russian Federation. Furthermore, the more and more sources confirmed that, for example, Austin, in the end of the meeting with Zelensky, he confirmed that the United States will continue to support Ukraine's fight for freedom. But one more time, the most important demand is to increase, according to the Russian, for example, let's say, head of intelligence, Naryshkin, he is the head of this service. He reported that, according to the Western countries, it is recommended that Kiev set the conscription age from 17 to 70 years and carry out additional mobilization of women. That was the words of the head director of the Foreign Intelligence Service. Furthermore, don't forget that just this morning in the previous video we have already discussed the situation that Zelensky dismissed the head and the commander of medical services, a woman, and we understand this. Now all these things are connected to each other. This woman probably she's not the only, of course, evidence. She's not the only witness. Obviously, there are a lot of people who knows the real number of Ukrainian losses of Ukrainian losses on the ground, and so on. And basically, Zelensky understand that if they're going to start mobilization among kids, among women, obviously they need to be 100% sure that this information is going to be top secret, that nobody is going to know about thousands or dozens or hundreds of thousands of killed people of 18, 19 years old, of dozens of thousands of killed women, and so on. So that's why he took a decision to dismiss, let's say, not so powerful woman. I'm talking about her mental health, because in the previous days he posted lots of videos and lots of things about the loss of Ukraine army, and he took a decision to adopt another person in this position. So one more time, the Ukrainians is going to enter a completely different life, the life where they're going to be no more Ukraine that we used to see in the previous days. They're going to be Ukraine with hundreds of dead people and women and kids and so on. Now we're moving to the situation on the ground. If you follow the situation with the Ministry of Defense report, you're going to see that today, according to the Ministry of Defense, there were almost very low numbers of losses. For example, on Kherson direction, the Ukrainians lost 40 soldiers of wounded and killed people, and basically this is the minimal level of losses after the Ukrainians managed to establish control or the foothold in Krinky. When talking about the Zaporozhye area, according to the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation, the Ukrainians' losses during the previous 24 hours were around 20 soldiers killed and wounded. So it's almost nothing in comparison with the numbers we got before. And for example, when talking about Donetsk direction, the Ukrainians lost just 130 soldiers. Also, it's the minimal level of losses, maybe even since the beginning of the special military operation. And the main reason of that is weather. Of course, you might be surprised what's the connection with weather and so on, but it's already 20th of November, and today I tried to collect as many as possible videos trying to show us the real situation on the ground and the real problems that Ukrainian army and Russian army as well currently face during the special military operation. As you can see in this video, like dozens of soldiers try to force a small truck to move, and as you can see, they can't do anything with this. On the other front line, we have another video. Sorry for all these lags, something wrong with the video server. It sometimes it show video very slow, so we need always to wait a little bit. So one more time, and on this video we see how another Ukrainian armored vehicle stuck in the ground. To see that even soldier can't move, he also stuck in this on this ground, and this is the current situation in Ukraine. Nobody, neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians, are able to move from one position to another, and that's why nobody, neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians, risked during the day. Everybody took a decision to wait for a little bit, to wait when the weather is going to stabilize, and after that, obviously, we're going to see more clashes. Furthermore, according to information we have, some parts of Ukraine were covered with snow, and not just somewhere in Karpaty, but on the combat line as well. And this is also another reason why we haven't seen clashes during the day, because it's a suicide operation to attack on armored vehicles during this weather, Ukrainian or neither the Russian positions. So that's why we haven't received so many updates during the previous 24 hours. But anyway, we got some details, got some piece of information. First of all, I believe that we maybe need to discuss Marinka. According to information we have, the Russians continue advancing, and as a result of clashes, the Russians managed to establish control over a few more blocks in the western part of these ruins, not even of the city. And so basically, according to information we have, as a result of clashes, the Russians managed to establish control over a few more streets. You know that according to the previous versions of this map, these streets were already under Russian control, but maybe the Ukrainians later launched some counteroffensives and the Russians were forced to step back. So that's why we, let's say, started our journey in Marinka from the beginning. So this is the real progress on the ground and the situation on the ground in the western part of this small village, or the ruins that led from this village. When talking about Avdiivka, the Russians continue their offensive operation on the north and on the south. The Russians continue their offensive operation on the south, and as a result of clashes, as a result of storming operation, the Russians managed to improve their positions in the industrial area. And according to information we have, just few buildings left in industrial area to capture, and maybe the update about few buildings left we got in the morning. So there are very high chances that before I start making the video, the Russians have already cleared the entire industrial area. There are still Ukrainian garrison in the residential area that located on the southwest of industrial area. I'm talking about this territory, and according to information we have, there are still Ukrainians, but the Russians are currently trying to storm this territory, and maybe the next few days we're going to receive some more updates about the progress in this area. When talking about this territory, there are no risk to attack because there are only trenches, there are buildings, so there is no like mood, and there is no problem for the deployment of infantry from one part to another, because basically most of the movements are taking place along the trenches, because this entire territory is one big like network of trenches, so that's why there are no problem for a deployment. So we'll see. We haven't received any like confirmations that the Russians managed to establish the Tsarskaya Okhota fortification, but some mappers have already updated their map, like Syriac. He said that the Russians, as a result of clashes, managed to get as close as possible to this fortification area, and that there are very heavy clashes on the outskirts of this stronghold. I'm not going to change the map because we need more evidence of that. When talking about northern flank, I must say that the situation is a little bit different from the events that took place during the previous weeks. For example, the Russians stopped any activity on this direction, and during the previous 24 hours we were receiving updates just from the Ukrainian side. On this video we see how the Ukrainians were bombing the Russian positions along the railways with the cluster rounds. A little bit to the south we got more details, and Ukrainian counterattack in the area in direction of the railways with Bradley and other different types of armored vehicles. So basically, according to these two geolocations, the Ukrainians, after a month of heavy clashes on the northern part of Avdiivka, managed to regroup, to bring some resource, some reinforcement, and the Ukrainians launched a series of counterattacks. And as a result of all these on those counterattacks that took place during the previous 24 hours, probably the Ukrainians managed to force the Russians to step back from Stepova and from the trenches and tree lines that located on the Ukrainian side of the railways. And as I understand, according to all these geolocations, currently this territory is no longer under Russian control but is in the gray zone. So if we continue to receive the same updates, obviously we will be forced to change the map and to show this territory either on the Ukrainian or in the gray zone. So we'll see. As you can see, a very interesting development on this front line. Now we are moving to the new front line, to the Gorlovka area, and we got more and more updates, and some of them are very interesting. The Russians continue publishing the videos of FPV drone strikes against the Ukrainian positions, and which basically confirmed the Ukrainian presence in this area, and as a result of attack, the Ukrainians managed to penetrate the Russians' defense belt and to capture some fortifications and the strongholds on the western part of Gorlovka. To tell the truth, this is not very good piece of news for the Russians, because basically they didn't expect that counterattack. Furthermore, due to this attack, to those offensive operations by the Ukrainian side, the Russians were forced to stop their offensive operation to the north of Avdiivka and in the area of Bakhmut. And they stopped not because they have sent reserves there. No, the Russians sent reserves just from one direction. As I understand, the Russians took a decision to take forces from Bakhmut, Artyomovsk area, and to redeploy them to Gorlovka to stabilize the situation. But no matter the situation, the Russians don't want to risk also in the area of Avdiivka. So for now, they want to wait when the Russians are able to stabilize the situation in Gorlovka, and after that, they will restart their offensive operation on the northern flank of Avdiivka, and they will continue the assault operation of chemical plant. But before that, they took a decision to wait. Furthermore, don't forget about the weather, because when talking about the northern flank, the weather has some effect on that territory, so there is no need to risk. It's better to wait. Furthermore, very interesting event took place in Gorlovka area. The Russian sources published the video how the Ukrainian forces were attacking the Ukrainian soldiers. On this video we see a landfill, and that one Ukrainian group was attacking another Ukrainian group from the landfill. There were a lot of theories about the situation, but the sources are saying that at some point the Ukrainian forces who were located in, I'll mark on the map, in this area took an order to start offensive operation or to redeploy their forces to the edge positions, let's say to support, let's say, another offensive forces who were fighting in the vicinity of Terikon, who were, by the way, very heavy bombed by the Russian FPV drones and had significant losses. And for some reason, the Ukrainians who were located in that area took a decision not to follow order. Basically, they refused to follow the order. And that's why the Ukrainians who were located on this landfill started attacking the Ukrainians who were on the lowland, trying to force them to step back. So that was something like anti-retreat forces, and that was like an action to force one group of Ukrainian army by another group of army to die, something like this. Okay, now we are moving further to Bakhmut Artyomov's direction. As we discussed, due to the very bad weather, there were no clashes on this direction as well. Furthermore, lots of operational reserves from a Bakhmut direction were redeployed in direction of Gorlovka. So that's why we see like something like reduced of any activity. On this video, we see the Ukrainian reconnaissance force who was moving along Klishevka. The Russians managed to discover them, and the Russians destroyed that group with anti-tank missile. Almost the same event, the same story took place a little bit to the south, on the north of Kurdyumovka, on the southwest from Andreevka. Another Ukrainian sabotage group was moving from tree line to another tree line. They were discovered by the Russians, who had night vision equipment, and as a result of probably artillery strike, that Ukrainian group was destroyed as well. So as you can see, there are no clashes, just the clashes, fightings between sabotage groups, and no like movements, big movements on the ground. When talking about Kupyansk and Liman frontline, we got some updates. We got a video of Wagner Group and Akhmat Special Unit together making photos, and the sources are saying that the preparations and redeployment and collection of these two legendary brigades have completed, the process have completed, and now they are ready to start assault or storming any this or that city. So this is something like a propaganda movie, propaganda scene, trying to show that the Russians are about to start something big. I'm not saying that this is a fake update. Obviously, we know that there is like a creation and collection of forces of Wagner and Akhmat, and the Russians just try to show the Ukrainians that, guys, take a look, everything that you saw before was just flowers, and now you're gonna see the real guys in their work. When talking about Kremenaya, the Russians continue bombardments of this forest with different directions, but one more time without any movements on the ground. The level of losses on the Kupyansk and Liman during the previous 24 hours were around 80 soldiers for entire line. We haven't received anything, almost anything from Liman direction, neither from the Russian nor from the Ukrainian side. So now, as you can see, we understand that the situation wasn't stabilized. You shouldn't think that the war in Ukraine is about to finish. No, the war in Ukraine is about to start and to enter the new stage of this war. The total war, at least from the Ukrainian side. Obviously, the Russians need to find a solution how to prevent and how to not be involved in this total war, because this is not according to the Russian interest. They need to find a solution, and I understand. Obviously, the Russians try to find, and I believe they have already found a solution, and they will try to implement it. And the question is whether the Russians are able to do this or not. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds you to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for your watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.